This is Jeannie Overing, and Jeannie started when she was 10 or 11 years old, and she's blah, 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 now. And how many kids do you have, Jeannie?
2.
She has 2 children, and how old are they?
9 and 5.
9 and 5. Hi. And this is her mom! Oh my God! Hi! Do you remember me? I was a lot younger, wasn't I? So we're talking quite a long time, almost 2 decades. Right. Well, Jeannie was one of the top competitors in the state of Florida. And I think you actually had a national ranking at one point. And Jeannie raised money. And you all remember when the walls of Germany fell down and they freed East and West Germany and they all became one? Well, it also happened in Russia. Russia opened themselves up to the West. And in Russia, it was kind of a new thing because communism kind of fell. They needed to because their economy sort of collapsed, and they started bringing people in from the West. Well, a promoter from the United States and a promoter from Russia decided, hey, it would be a good idea to bring karate people in from America and open up a karate tournament between the Russians and the Americans, not to be competitive, but just kind of share their styles. So the American karate team was kind of formed, and they were going to go over to Russia. Now, the hotels in Russia weren't very good at the time. They're 4 or 5 star now, but at the time they had leaky faucets, and they dripped 1 drop at a time, right? And they had mice everywhere, and they were dirty, and the food was terrible, wasn't it? The food was awful, but they were all celebrating on the streets with music, and they were all really happy people, weren't they? But they were starving. They had bread lines that went how long? Yeah, I mean, it was quite an eye-opener for you, wasn't it? But Jeannie raised enough money to go on this, and it was a lot of money. And you remember how much money it was? A couple thousand, $3,000 or more to go on this trip. Well, the sad thing was, so I'll tell you what, why don't you tell the story, and I'll be back in a second. Go ahead and tell everybody the story.
Well,
I'll be right back.
It was
in front of the camera.
This is my situation. It's a little boring. It was over pretty fast, but the rules were a little bit vague. We were all pretty scared because we had seen a few people get knocked down throughout the day, and don't know what happens in Russian hospitals. But we actually both got disqualified for excessive contact. So I didn't lose exactly.
Oh, you didn't lose? Well,
I actually didn't rank either.
You got disqualified.
We both kind of went at each other, and it was over.
It was over real quick. So you spent all this money, you got in there. How long did it take? 15, 20 seconds. So that's what I remember. I don't remember all that. And she gave us a videotape, and that videotape has actually been around the world because I gave it to the promoter who saw it. The promoter of the event was a guy named John Kanzler, and he became a very, very dear friend of mine. And we're cigar smoking buddies, and we're just buddies. And 20 years later, we're best of friends, and we were talking about the event, and he is so embarrassed about the lighting. And I told him years ago that I had a student, and he was very impressed that I had a student because, he just doesn't want to admit that it never happened, but he was impressed that we sent a student there. It kind of, set up my validity with this gentleman. But this year he came up to me and said, Michael, I have something for the student that you had that came to this event, and I know that it wasn't a very good experience for her, but I wanted to give her something. And what I have for her is one of the gold medals.
Oh, wow. Wow.
There you go. Is that cool or what? Let's give her another hand. Okay, well, tell her.
Well, Michael mentions the fundraising, and it was a fundraising effort. It wasn't a fundraising effort on my part alone. In fact, we were trying to get a group of people there, and it was actually the Kinney family members that actually raised the money for themselves that ended up donating to me being able to go. I was 16. My mom let me go to Russia. Chapter, I would never let my daughter, but I appreciate the experience and that's for many years. I was surprised it left such an impression, but it was very impressionable on me.
You're welcome. I'm glad you came tonight to get this. I called her on the phone and said, you got to come. I got something for you. I really worked hard to get this, and I really did. I had to keep asking because he was so embarrassed about it. But Thank you, Jeannie. And now this is going to be on videotape forever. Thank you. Cut. Cut.